The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on a break!
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
Welcome back to The Break. I hope everyone had a very Merry Christmas. How are you guys doing?
Awesome.
Extremely well.
Awesome.
Dave is trying to get back into town.
Is he really?
I don't know. Maybe.
He says he is, but
I think he's going to make it.
You think?
Yeah.
All hungover.
Obviously not.
Maybe. I think he's going to make it by the end of the show.
Okay.
We have had some weather issues here in Dallas. A little bit.
It's sunny.
No, it isn't. Anyways.
Anyways.
They practice
it's
outside
a little
on
cloudy.
Wednesdays.
Yeah.
That's why they moved it indoors today.
Because of the clouds?
Because of the expected rain and the rain that we've already had that made it
We know how important weather is to
All I
Derek.
know is Dave better have my gumbo or we're going to have a problem.
Tiny Jim.
Good luck with that.
that one in a while.
But
Tiny Jim.
this isn't news anymore. The Cowboys are officially in the playoffs, and we haven't really gotten a chance to talk about the game. It's been a few days now, but I wanted to start off with just getting an overall opinion of what you saw on Sunday and what were some of the things that you took away from that game. Despite the win, there's still some room for improvement on the offense. And so just give me your thoughts, Derek. Let's start with you.
Oh, man. I don't know. I honestly, I didn't take a whole lot from that game. They did exactly what I expected they would. The score actually ended up being closer than what the game really was. I thought, personally, obviously that they scored there with, what was that, 4 or so minutes left? Is that right? Even less than that?
It was right at 2.
Right at 2. But, I mean, I think, honestly, to me, it was the Cowboys pretty much dominated that game. So I wasn't, or at least defensively, they dominated that game.
Yeah.
We can talk about the offense, but, I mean, that's kind of what we've seen from the offense all season. They do just enough, right? And so I didn't really take much away from that game other than the Cowboys as a team went out in a game where they needed to go ahead and close it out, and they went ahead and closed it out. And so for that, you say, great. Let's move on.
I agree. I mean, the playoffs are a big house. They walked right in the front door. They didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, they didn't have to do, back into anything, side door, got help from anyone else. They went out, they won the game. I don't know if it was as one-sided as you kind of made it sound. I thought, without that fumble that was a gift by the Bucs to just drop the ball, and Gregory picked it up. And Gregory really did a nice job of realizing that the offense isn't going to score a touchdown from the 17. So let's bat it forward a little bit to get it to the 4, and then get it, and then we can score. We do have to throw it to Noah Brown first, and then we'll throw it to a more accomplished receiver and get a touchdown. I thought the offense struggled, like you said, but that's what they did. That's what this team is. Yeah. That game right there. That
exactly
offense
right.
A little bit here and there. They're going to show some flashes. We're going to lean on the defense and the special teams. The special teams player of the week, Brett Maher again. We're going to lean on them and get into the playoffs. And now we'll see what happens from there.
And we keep talking about how good the defense is. Clearly, they proved so last week. And now some of the things that they need to fix, and we talk about the red zone, and some of the things that we saw there, and we knew by the reports that Dave gave us how bad this defense they were. Yeah, Tampa. How bad the Tampa defense was in the red zone, and when you see the struggles that the Cowboys still had, and they only got that the run when Dak went in.
Yeah, well, 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
3 times in there, they scored 2 touchdowns.
Still struggling. Now, do you expect this to be something that they could possibly fix in the next few weeks?
I mean, it's just going to come down to, maybe a few plays here and there. Like, I don't think they fixed anything this week. I mean, if there is a new play, something that they've seen on tape that they think they can score in there, I don't think you show it for this week, but it's something that you can work on for the playoff game. I mean, yeah, I think it can be fixed. I mean, nothing's going to be fixed at this point. You just need to have a good game in the playoffs. I mean, I think if they went 3 for 3 against Seattle or Minnesota in the playoffs, you wouldn't call it a fixed red zone, but it was good enough to get in and win. So I don't know if you can fix anything at this point. You just got to be good on the day that you need them to be good, which is January probably sixth or fifth or sixth.
Yeah.
Derek, you always talk about the defense and how they can win you games, they can win you Super Bowls and all of that good stuff. Now, do you expect this to be enough for the Cowboys to win this next playoff game and take it further down the road?
Honestly,
What the team they have right now?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know if their defense is good enough to carry the whole load. I think their defense is good enough that if the offense can give them a little bit of support, that they can win. What we saw the other day, that was a little bit of support. I think they're going to need a little bit more support than that in order to beat some of these playoff teams. Because if you look at the NFL and what's happened down the stretch here, a lot of these teams have good defenses. So it's not like the Cowboys are the only team with a good defense. Chicago has a really, really good defense. New Orleans has a good defense. They're playing good defense right now. Seattle's playing good defense right now. So the Cowboys aren't the only team in the NFC even that has a good defense. The problem is that when you look at a team like New Orleans is not only playing good defense, but obviously have one of the best quarterbacks. Definitely, in my opinion, the NFC, the best quarterback left in the NFC in the playoffs. And they have an offense that can put up points. They've been a little bit shaky here down the stretch, but you certainly don't want to count them out because they have so many playmakers on offense. So that all being said, I think the Cowboys have a good enough defense that if the offense can be a little bit better, particularly in the red zone, like you talked about, if they can get that part to a point where it's more functional, as Nick said, now maybe not fixed, but at least more functional, I think they have a good shot because the defense is a legitimate defense. If not, though, if the offense can't score some more points for them, if they can't get them to that 20 range consistently throughout the playoffs, then I don't think they're going to win very many 13-10 games in the playoffs. I think there'll be a little more scoring than that because these teams are pretty good. So I think that's really what it's going to come down to is can the offense give them enough support that they can then close it out.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Right now, the Cowboys have two possible opponents, Minnesota and then Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Which of these two teams would you guys rather see the Cowboys face, or who are you expecting out of those two for them to face?
I'll answer that part. That's easier than to answer the expecting. I expect it to be Seattle because I expect a playoff team like Seattle to beat the Cardinals, who I believe the Cardinals are fighting for the number one overall pick.
Fighting,
yeah. So Seattle needs to win to be the fifth seed, and Arizona needs to lose, I think, to be the number one overall pick. All the cards are aligned for that to happen. I don't think the Cardinals are good enough to win. So I think it's going to be Seattle. They have to lose that game.
Would that be the better match for the Cowboys?
Okay, that's a tougher question. I think.
Well, all things considered, here's the thing, because there is a legitimate chance that the Vikings are not in the playoffs and they're replaced by the Eagles. Basically, those are the three teams that are left kind of now fighting. Seattle's already locked up, actually, so it's really two teams. It's Minnesota and Philly. And Minnesota has to play Chicago, which, by the way, if Chicago wins and the Rams lose, they can get a bye. So they got something to play for this weekend. This is not going to be a situation where they're going to sit everybody. That being said, if they can beat Minnesota and Philly wins against Washington, which, again, is very possible, now you got a situation where Philly jumps into that sixth spot. And if you're asking me who would I prefer the Cowboys to play between Philly and Seattle or Philly and Minnesota?
Hold on, not to cut you off. Sure. Philadelphia cannot play the Cowboys this weekend. Philadelphia cannot be a team to face the Cowboys in week one. They will not be the 5. So I'm just saying that doesn't matter. They will not play Philadelphia unless it's the NFC Championship game.
Correct. Okay. Now, but that's also the other thing, too, is who do you want to see in that sixth spot? And that's what I was getting around to. It's not necessarily just I was taking her question and kind of going a little deeper.
Okay. But fans are asking that they don't want to face the Eagles. I'm like, you don't have to unless it's the championship game.
But I do prefer to see the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs because I do think they have a better shot of beating Chicago, maybe the Rams. I'd rather have
them out.
And the thing about it is
them do your job.
But not only that, that's one of the
keeps
teams
you out
that
of New Orleans.
If you win, if you keep winning, then that means that if you face the Philadelphia Eagles, I know we're way ahead, but you would actually get a home NFC Championship game. So I don't think Minnesota has the ability to run the table on that side of the bracket. I do think Philadelphia could because Philadelphia is heating up at the right time of the year, and we're starting to see shades of what they were last year when they went all the way to the Super Bowl. So if you're asking from that standpoint, yes, I'd rather see the Cowboys face Minnesota in the first round because I think Seattle is looking really good right now but I think that's probably far-fetched. I think Nick's right. I think Seattle wins this weekend, so it's all moot point, and I think Seattle ends up being the team the Cowboys play, and then I want to see Philadelphia jump into the
If it
spot.
comes down to quarterback, I mean, I think, they've beaten Kirk Cousins a lot for some reason. They seem like they've got his number more so than Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson would be more dangerous quarterback.
Good job, Nick.
Yeah, thank you. More dangerous quarterback to face. Probably the most dangerous quarterback.
Weren't you saying
for
after
this
the
game.
game that you would rather see Seattle? Like going up against the Cowboys, playing against them?
I think yes, after the game,
Yeah.
Philadelphia was still sort of in play at that
Right.
point.
Yeah.
And you'd rather see Seattle than Philadelphia.
I just
right?
don't like, and that's why I think Chicago 6 versus 3. If Chicago's the 3 and the Vikings are the 6, I think that's important. I think the Vikings could go win that game. What'll be weird is that Minnesota plays them at home this week. Would have to win. Seattle will have to lose. Then they would have to play again. And also, let's throw this part out. Philadelphia could lose to the Redskins on the road, and then Minnesota gets in, even if they
Regardless,
lose,
yeah.
even if they lose. So they could be the 6 facing the 3.
You know the time of those games? Is that all?
Nah,
I know the night game. I just don't know.
I
the
know.
afternoon game.
Week 17 they put every game at noon,
And then they make.
and
the
then they
adjustment.
make changes. And I know the Cowboys haven't changed.
I know that the two AFC teams, AFC South teams, Tennessee and Indianapolis, are playing the night game. And I know, I know Seattle's in the afternoon. I don't know about the
Buster.
Washington Philly game, and I don't know about the Chicago Minnesota game. So
I don't either. I'm still expecting it to be Seattle, but I think the Vikings, if they get in, they got 2 good receivers. They got Kirk Cousins. They can throw the ball around. He hasn't had a lot of success against Dallas, and I think that the defense with Mike Zimmer coming in here, that would be kind of scary. You do have some former Cowboy coaches that are sitting there that you're probably going to face at some point in the playoffs. You got Wade Phillips at the Rams, you got Sean Payton, obviously with the Saints, and so it'll be interesting to see.
Now, a lot of talk about this following week, about this weekend going against the Giants. Who's going to play? Should the Cowboys play their starters? And what's going to happen there? Zeke, when he talked about it after the game, he basically said, no, we need to go out there. We're going to keep playing and we all need to play. It doesn't mean anything that we got in the playoffs. We still have things to prove, blah, blah, things to work on. Now, there is a big debate going on as far as who you should play and who you should sit. They have several injured players that probably would be good to sit out. Now, I want to get your opinions on this topic and what you would rather see happening this weekend as far as who's going to be available on the field and who to sit out.
I've heard a lot of fans basically call this a 4th preseason game and say, sit everyone. That doesn't work that way. Your roster is not 90 players. Your roster is 53 players. You only play 46. You can't really do that across the board. I thought it was Nate that said it after the game in the show on Monday morning, the joint show that they did in here, and he said, a case-by-case basis, and I agree with that. I don't think you can say – now, if too many cases are made on your offensive line, like Tyron Smith out, Zach Martin out.
Well, that's the thing. We talk about the domino effect.
There
it's
you
like
go.
It keeps
Right.
carrying.
So that would change the case for Dak Prescott if you've changed and all that. I think this is more like a 3rd preseason game for me, a dress rehearsal game.
Mm-hmm.
I think you go out there, the starters play, the healthy ones. We'll talk about who practiced today and who may not be in that boat, but the healthy ones go out there, play, and a quarter or 2 or something, and then pull them out if you can, or pull some of them out, and then they all can't come out. You don't have that many backup spots.
yeah, and I think the interesting thing is because Garrett even said it this morning on his press conference. He said, if we think all of our healthy guys are going to play. Well, my question becomes, what do you define as healthy?
Mm-hmm.
Because Tyron Smith, although he's playing, I don't know that anybody would call him completely healthy. So what's that marker that lets you say, yeah, this guy is healthy enough to play or not? Because I think it should be different. I don't know that it is for Jason because he hasn't confirmed that, but I think it should be different depending on like this week's game versus next week's game. What you call healthy this week may not be what you call healthy next week, right? When it's a playoff type atmosphere. So that all being said, I'm interested to see how that plays out. I agree with Nick. I think you play everybody for a little bit. But for a guy like Tyron, for guys like Zach that are, banged up and have some significant issues, I personally wouldn't play them at all. I give them a week of being able to mend, like a week. Basically, I would give them 2 weeks of not having to get hit at all, not having to get torque on their bodies at all, because to me, those guys playing at an optimal level changes the trajectory of your team dramatically. I would even consider something like that for Zeke, because I know, this year it seems like Zeke he's playing through a lot more than he does in past years. And he just looks to me like he could use some time.
Yep.
And you give a running back like him 2 weeks, he'll be a lot more spry than he is right now. And I want that going into the playoffs. So for me, I look at it as an opportunity to see some of my young guys, but also to give these vets that I think are a little bit more banged up, give them 2 weeks to be able to rest.
Yeah, I think, you're looking at your key players. If this was me, I would go Zach Martin 0 quarters. Because I would put him out. He didn't practice today, and he's been dealing with that knee injury back and forth. I would go 0 for him. Tyron Smith 1, Zeke 1
quarter.
Yep, and Dak.
Can we go series?
Cooper 2 quarters.
All right,
probably a half, but I would probably just go 1 quarter for Zeke, and I know this doesn't sound like a big deal, but I really think Jason Garrett wants to win this game for some momentum, even building into the playoffs. And 9-7, that's the same as what they were last year. They didn't make the playoffs this year. They did 10-6, 9-7. Just in the NFL scope of what's a good year, it's a better year. And that stuff will be used against him later on when he didn't finish. He's only finished with 10 wins like twice, and it's important to win. You don't want to go 9-7 when Philadelphia goes 9-7 and you get in on tie break. You want to go 10-6. So I think,
unless you win the Super Bowl,
it's
okay.
Then nothing matters.
Then it's okay. Yeah.
No, I just think it matters kind of to people more than they think about it. Keep this thing going. Get hot going into the playoffs and win without jeopardizing some guys that are really hurt.
Now, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll keep talking about the Cowboys and what's going on this week, the injured players, and all of that stuff. Also, send us your questions on Twitter at Cowboys Break, and we'll try to hit them up as well.
If you're like me and you love... if you have a thing, then cutting the cord is scary. But then I found out I could switch to DirecTV Now and still get the live sports I love. No satellite needed, no bulky hardware, no annual contract, just...
Get the live sports you love. Try DirecTV Now for $10 a month for 3 months. Visit DirecTVNow.com. DirecTV Now. More for your thing. That's our thing. Use code REALDEAL. Limited time. Price for a little package. After 3 months, renews monthly at full price. Currently minimum $40 unless canceled. Prices may change. New subscribers only. Cancel anytime. Content varies by package and may be limited. Restrictions apply.
Do you want the most interesting, up-to-the-minute Dallas Cowboys news straight from the Star in Frisco? How about exclusive and on command? That's right. News and nuggets you can't find anywhere else. With our exclusive Cowboys content on Alexa, you can have all the answers, secrets, stories, and more. What's Stephen Jones thinking during a game? What's Joe Looney's favorite pregame meal? We take your questions to Cowboys players and coaches, and you can hear the answers directly back to you. Just say, Alexa, open Dallas Cowboys.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with sideline access and photo ops with current players, alumni, and cheerleaders. That's not all, though. You'll get to talk X's and O's with Senior Director of Player Personnel Will McClay, and of course with yours truly, me, Brian Broaddus. You can trust the official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and with us, you'll travel like a pro. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Playmaker, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The Playmaker includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized Intense Therapy lip balm and a Cowboys can cooler. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word Cowboys. The Jack Black Playmaker, $10, free shipping.
While a player can look good on paper, it's when he's out on the field that you really find out what he's made of. That's why the Cowboys rely on more than just stats and scouting reports when building their team. When picking a tractor, it's why you should rely on more than just specs and features. You've got to take it out and put it to the test. The Cowboys did when they named John Deere their official tractor. Experience one for yourself. Visit myjohndeeredealer.com/football.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys. Back to the break.
Get it right. Welcome back to the break. Not talking Cowboys. Yeah, we were talking about some of the injured players. You mentioned Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, some of those guys. Now, Tyron Crawford, he suffered a pretty nasty injury during the game.
Looked like it.
Yeah, I mean, the way it went down.
Yeah, and remember, and we've seen this before, and this is something that makes perfect sense for all teams and to do. But when any type of neck injury like that, it looks really bad because it will look bad. They're going to take the face mask off. They're not going to do anything, to jeopardize further injury here. They're going to take every precautionary measure possible. He was moving around at the end of the game, moving his neck, left to go home before the end of the game. So he was in good spirits. He's fine. I think he's going to be ready to play against in the playoff game. He wouldn't play this week. Did not practice. He was one of the 5 players, I believe 5 players that did not practice today. David Irving obviously wasn't there. Didn't see him. Anthony Brown, but looked pretty close. Anthony Brown looked like moving around with a back injury. Looks pretty good.
Working to the side.
Huh?
Working to the side.
Working to the side, but with helmet on, so it looks pretty good. Zach Martin was not there. Makes me think Zach Martin's not going to play this week. Why would you? This is one
point.
Where you wouldn't, and you see a big difference with him. Tampa Bay game, goes out there, they play better. Indianapolis, he wasn't there. They really struggled. He's a difference maker on that offensive line. I don't know if you call him the MVP, but he's very valuable.
He's an All-Pro multi times. Like that's
5 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean you're talking about one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. So
which is what I think you made a good point a few minutes ago about. Those are the type of guys that change what you're trying to do. And if they're not 100%, then you need to get them at 100%
or as close to it
when the game matters the most.
Now, we kept talking about how Tyron Crawford, he's had a really good season and the things that he's able to do on the defensive line that not many people notice that much, but he's a key player to that line and he can do multiple things. He can play for you at different spots. And when he came out of the game, we were able to keep seeing the line perform very well. Now, I wanted to make note of Randy Gregory and the things that he has been able to accomplish so far, which sometimes, a lot of the times, he's being called for penalties or up and down, but then he comes back and gives you something. So he makes it pretty balanced for you, but regardless.
Not necessarily a good thing, but hey, whatever.
But at least last game, it paid off. It doesn't always work out that way.
Nick said he was the MVP of both teams, right?
At one point, in the first half, I thought he was the MVP for the Cowboys and the Bucks.
It's like
the penalties are just really alarming for the team, but mainly his penalties. It just seems like he just kind of was going along. You don't hear much about Gregory, and then boom, he's just going to do something. He just doesn't really maybe have a full understanding of what some of the rules are. Not all the penalties I think have been 100% good calls.
That's the NFL.
But that's the league, and
and that's the other thing when you talk about those calls, which has been happening throughout the whole year, just making bad calls. And I was talking to you about this, I think sometime during the game or after when we were headed down to the field. But as far as Randy Gregory goes, some of those penalties, it's like you can't really fault him if he goes offsides or whatever, then that's on him. But when he gets to the quarterback, some of those quarterback hits, it's very debatable and it's tough. It's tough for you to have a clear understanding of the things that you're supposed to do, and especially when you're trying to get to the quarterback, the adrenaline rush and the things and the movement. It's hard to tell some of the calls that are going to happen there.
I think you can argue. I think you can argue the validity of the rule itself. I don't think in this last game that unnecessary roughness or roughing the passer, whatever the call was, I don't think that was a bad call based upon the letter of the law. The letter of the rule is you can't drive, you can't land with your body weight on top of the quarterback. Now, I know that, as you said, when guys are going full speed and they're hitting the quarterback, like, you can question whether that's a good rule. You can question whether that's always possible even for guys to do or not do. But I think according to what the rule says, it says you can't come down on the quarterback with your full body weight. And to me, he came down on the quarterback with his full body weight.
I think the spirit of the rule is to pick up a guy and then drive him into the ground. And I don't think you can't tackle a guy and lay on and bring him to the ground without putting your weight on him.
Not true. I've seen guys this year.
Okay. Hold on. Before you say that, this is why this thing is different. Randy Gregory weighs 240 pounds. Jameis Winston is listed at 237. I think that's very nice for him. I don't think that he weighs 237. So to get the guy down like you need to get him down, you have to tackle him. You have to lift him. Okay. You have to get him to the ground.
Right now you're debating the rule. Okay, I get it. The rule might be a bad rule. My point is that's how they said that they were going to call it, which is if you bring your body weight down on whether you think you need to or not, if you bring your body weight down on the quarterback, the rule says that's a penalty.
Yeah. I thought he hit the guy and he went down and they went down together and your body weight's going to go on him. I thought that was not exactly what the intention of the rule was. Wasn't the worst call in that drive though. I mean, the one later with Xavier Woods, I think is one of the worst calls that they've had this year against them. But overall, penalties are an issue, and that's the one thing that's setting back that I think this defense is those undisciplined and definitely untimely penalties. And you have to play, and you have to play to what the rules are. But I don't think Xavier Woods is going to change what he's doing. He shouldn't.
No, and that's the thing. You almost have to in today's NFL. When you're coaching your defense, you almost have to accept that there are going to be some of those penalties. Yeah. And that's why, again, I don't necessarily have a problem with Randy for that penalty. I do think it was, again, according to the rule, I think it was the right call. But I think that as a defense, you just have to know there are going to be sometimes you're going to get those calls. Same thing with Xavier Woods. You're going to get those calls because the league has made it a priority. We're trying to protect quarterbacks, protect receivers that aren't looking, like all these things. They've now kind of built this into the game that's their priority. And so if that's the case, you don't want your guys not being aggressive on defense because that's what makes a good defense. Right. So you just have to accept the fact that sometimes those penalties are going to go against you, and you just have to suck it up and move on.
I kind of feel like it's a guy that just walks into like the zoo, like where the tigers are, and was just kind of walking around. I'm not really paying attention, and then he gets like mauled, and you're like,
a flag comes run.
Well, like why are you defenseless? Well, like I'm a defenseless. Well, get the hell out of the damn cage, like. I'm not trying to discriminate against guys like Humphreys, Beasley. They've had a really good career. It's great that you can be in the league and play at 165 pounds, whatever. But I do think that it's kind of a hockey situation that's going on here. Is how the play looked is what determines us to throw. Because you got hit hard and you went flying. That shouldn't necessarily be.
But you have to admit that it did look like, and I think on the replay we kind of saw it and said maybe that wasn't the case. But it looked like because of the way his head snapped, it looked like the crown of Xavier's helmet may have hit him in the face mask. Now I think when we saw it in review again, it looked like it really didn't actually make contact. Mm-hmm. But when you saw it in Bang Bang, it looked like because of the way of his head snapped. It looked like he got hit in the head. So I get how the penalty could have been called, right?
Refs are watching it live down there, and then we get the luxury to watching it from up top and then seeing the replay on TV and seeing how the play actually played out. So it's different.
But college football has figured out a way to make targeting a reviewable play. Why is the NFL not doing the same thing?
Honestly, and I know there's a lot that would have to be worked out. I really want us to get to the day when the NFL has somebody or a group of guys that sit in the press box or sit somewhere else and they're watching this thing on television and they're making the calls from there. Like, why are we in a day of technology? Now, why are we in a day of technology still forcing guys to be standing at field level where at field level you can't see everything and letting them call a game rather than having a guy that's just focused on the offensive lineman that's watching a screen that can hit a button, and when they hit a button, somebody on the field can say, okay, flag goes out, there's a penalty, here is the penalty. That, to me, is a smarter way of calling games, and it's going to be way more accurate than having guys down on the field having to make those kind of calls.
And if that play is Mike Evans, if Mike Evans catches that ball over the middle for different reasons, that is not going to be a penalty. Number one, he's a lot taller, so Xavier Woods is not going to hit him in the head. He's going to hit him in the shoulder. maybe I'm sure Evans is still going to go down because that was such a forceful hit.
Nice hit.
But he's not going to. I mean, he was hit like at the 15, and I think he went back to. I mean, Humphreys landed at like around midfield, maybe. Like, I mean, it was not that far, but I mean, he went back 10 yards. I don't think you're going to do that, and I think that's what forced the officials to be like, well, this has got to be a penalty. I mean, the guy might be dead, so it's got to be a penalty. That's the thing that, I think hockey officials, refs do that on what looks bad. What, if there's blood, that must be real high, whatever.
It did look bad.
It did look bad because
and it looked like he got hit in the head. It really did look like that.
Because he looks like he plays junior high football. That's why. And that's why it's not Xavier Woods' fault. It's great that you're in the
agree,
league,
but
we shouldn't
bad.
make calls.
Yeah, but it's still,
because, I mean, just because Rudy's out here playing doesn't mean another movie y'all probably haven't seen. But God dang. Rudy and Hoosiers. There's probably like a 2-pack DVD, Blu-ray you can get.
Well, we talked about
the Mac. Did you see that? The Mac.
What's the
All right, that's my point.
What is the Mac?
Stick with your Hoosiers. I'll watch the Mac.
What's the Mac?
It's a great movie. Really great movie. Go look it up.
Return of the Mac. Yeah, good song. All right.
Okay, well, we talked about Randy Gregory's penalties, and another guy that has been pretty constant as far as penalty goes is, who would it be?
Tyron Smith.
Yes, Tyron Smith. Now, what are some of the things that we've been able to see him from the field a few times towards the end of the game?
Okay. Just keep holding.
Just keep doing what he's doing. Just take whatever.
I mean, it's unfortunate, but you kind of, Flozell Adams was a false start machine at left tackle for almost every game, right? He got about one a game. And he was also a 5-time Pro Bowler at left tackle. And
Tyron's better than him.
Tyron is better than him.
Yeah.
He does have to figure out the whole, because while he has been blocking, they are calling that as a penalty, and that's kind of what he's done for years.
Which is kind of interesting because this last game, one of those holding calls, his hands were inside. Now, I know that a lot of times you'll hear guys talking about it, that the way it's taught is if your hands get outside and the ref sees your hands outside and the guy's lateral movement is limited, then they're going to say, well, that was holding. But if you get your hands inside, which if you look at offensive line play throughout the league, almost every single play, you see the offensive lineman, he's trying to get his hands inside. And once he gets inside, he locks in and usually grabs the opposing player by their jersey or by their shoulder pads in the front with their hands inside. That's how you play offensive line. So for him to get called for holding on that kind of play, that's what was a little bit weird to me because his hands weren't outside. They were inside. And to me, that happens again, every single play, and that's how you're taught to play offensive line. That's how you get. That's why guys are hand fighting because they don't want to let that offensive lineman actually lock in inside because you do that, you can't get off them. Yeah, you can't get off them.
I think it's become a little bit problematic, but I mean,
you're fine with taking it.
I mean, it's kind of like the Gregory thing. I mean, it's just you have to be able to produce, and
Well, it offsets it on the defensive side because of the way that the defense is playing. It kind of balances it off. But when it comes to the offense, the penalties that Tyron gets or Lael, those are big time ones, and that could end up costing you a lot.
This offense doesn't need any setbacks, especially when they get down there. You're right, and so far they haven't been too bad. In the Indianapolis game, they probably missed a field goal opportunity because of that. Was that the Indianapolis game? No, it was a home game actually. I forgot exactly. It might have been the Philadelphia game where Maher missed a 47-yarder, and they had a couple of plays on Tyron that pushed him back. But he should have had one more because if you can push him back into the 57 to 60 range, Maher's money.
And we'll talk about him when we come back after this final break. We'll talk about Mr. Brett Maher and his kicking game.
While a player can look good on paper, it's when he's out on the field that you really find out what he's made of. That's why the Cowboys rely on more than just stats and scouting reports when building their team. When picking a tractor, it's why you should rely on more than just specs and features. You've got to take it out and put it to the test. The Cowboys did when they named John Deere their official tractor. Experience one for yourself. Visit myjohndeeredealer.com/football.
It's time for Tailgate with the OtterBox boys.
OtterBox? The makers of those crazy protective phone cases?
The one and only. They're also wild about protecting parking lot parties from sad drinks. It's why they made elevation tumblers.
Rumor around the crockpot is they're made from stainless steel with a copper lining to keep temps hot or cold.
True, they even come in 7 different sizes, up to 64 ounce, the growler.
I like how OtterBox drinks. Thinks.
And that's been Tailgating with the OtterBox boys. Check out all the colors and sizes of their elevation tumblers at otterbox.com.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Playmaker, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The Playmaker includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized Intense Therapy lip balm and a Cowboys can cooler. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word Cowboys. The Jack Black Playmaker, $10, free shipping.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with sideline access and photo ops with current players, alumni, and cheerleaders. That's not all, though. You'll get to talk X's and O's with Senior Director of Player Personnel Will McClay, and of course with yours truly, me, Brian Broaddus. You can trust the official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and with us, you'll travel like a pro. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
A man's Stetson doesn't just protect him from life's elements. It projects an unstoppable and legendary spirit, just like the men wearing silver and navy on the field every Sunday. Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. They are still the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find Stetson hats in the Pro Shop or at Stetson.com today.
Back to the break.
At 3-5 in the middle of the season, the Cowboys obviously made a few adjustments to turn things around, and that's what teams need to do. Middle of the season, middle of the game, whatever, adjustments. The middle of the day is not a good time for guys to be making adjustments. You want to be able to just be pretty good down there from start to finish, not have to shift things around. Tommy John assures that you won't have to do that. They've got the best underwear in the world. It feels like you've got nothing on. No need for any kind of adjustments. As they say on the website, when you're uncomfortable, we're all uncomfortable. So TommyJohn.com, get 20% off your first order. Get the best underwear in the world.
You know, one of our listeners hit me up yesterday on Twitter and was like, my wife got the message. He got the Tommy John for Christmas. I was like, that's a win. That's a win. Yeah, that's definitely a win.
Some people got Tommy John in my family for
Did
Christmas.
they? Oh,
they got pretty excited. I don't know. But it's good stuff. It's good stuff. It's very nice material. I'll say that. Very comfortable. Now, before we went on break, we mentioned Brett Maher, a guy that Nick was ready to was ready to cut last week. No, you started talking about that last week.
What?
Yes, you did. It's on record.
No,
we don't need to pull it back.
I didn't say to cut the guy.
You mentioned it. Then we said, well, who are you gonna bring? Oh, okay, well, we don't know. Well, there's a lot of other guys in the market. Well, blah blah blah. But you did mention that. Now that's not up for debate. I just want to say that Brett Maher did win NFC Special Teams Player of the Week, and this has been the second time that he wins that this year.
Right.
So. Why are you looking at me like that? Does this change your mind? Do you see Brett Maher any differently after him winning this title this week?
All right. They're playing Seattle. They're playing Seattle, and they're down 17-16, and they're driving, and they have a 47-yard field goal to win the game. Are you comfortable that he's going to make it? No, I mean, that's the thing.
Are you comfortable that the offense is going to score 6 points? Are you comfortable that Dak is going to make a pass? You're not very comfortable throughout the game. That's just how it is right now.
I understand. And I'll go back and I challenge you to find that where I said that they need to cut him. I never said that because I'm with you. I don't know who's out there, but what I'm saying is he's on the thin ice. And if he did not play well in this last game, yeah, he was Player of the Week. Congratulations. If he missed 2 kicks against Tampa Bay, they probably would have found someone else. He's at that point. I think he's got a little bit more leeway now, especially going into New York. Whatever happens there, I don't think they're going to make a change. But there was a time, and everyone knows this, 2 or 3 weeks ago, that if he did not pull himself out of this, he was going to be replaced. but he has. No one's comfortable about anything that he's doing, but it is what it is. And yeah, I agree. I mean, you're not comfortable about anything right now. Unless you're wearing Tommy John. Unless you're wearing Tommy John, then you are comfortable.
True.
But other than wearing Tommy John, you're not that comfortable.
But here's the other thing that I think keeps him from being replaceable right now. And that could change next week, but right now. And that is the fact that he's hitting these longer ones. So if he's a little bit shaky, as you said, at that 47-yard mark, I might be a little bit nervous. You just roll him out there for a 60-yarder, 58-yarder.
Which is crazy.
I actually feel more confident in those, because I think Rob said it during the game this last week. Those aren't pressure kicks. Like, if you miss it, no one cares. Like, everybody's like, well, it's a 58-yarder. It's a 62-yarder. It is what it is. Now, if it's for the game, if it's to win the game, then that's a little bit different. But if it's just, at the end of the half and you're just taking a shot because that's all you can do.
Yes.
I feel like he'll go out and nail that kick regularly.
I
don't feel nearly as nervous about that as I would a 45-yarder.
I agree at the end of the half, but I don't think if you're sitting at the 41-yard line with 12 minutes to go in the second quarter and you're at home and you have a chance for a 58, 59-yard field goal, I don't like that. I wouldn't try that, even though I know he can make it.
Yeah.
Because the ball will be right there at midfield.
Percentages say that's not a smart play.
Right. So while into the half, you have a little, end of half, end of games, you don't have to get as far as other kickers might because of his leg. I don't think it changes much in the middle of the game. I don't think you still want to be trying 58, 59-yard field goals.
How far was the one where he almost missed it this weekend?
59, but it was
59.
Yeah, and that wasn't like right at the end of the half because the Bucs went down and scored a touchdown. So, you could make the case there that they made a 59-yarder, but if you would have punted and pinned them down there, you probably would have saved 4 points, because I don't know if Tampa drives that whole way.
Yeah, I actually didn't like the call to go for it at that moment in the game. Like, I was like the chance that he doesn't get it is too great to give them the ball where they would have gotten it on a day when I felt like they really didn't have a hard time moving the ball. They were bogging down a little bit. I mean, I felt like their offense had some big plays. I would have wanted to force them to drive the entire field because I didn't think they would drive the entire field. So I'm with you. I would have probably tried to put them down.
It'll be a case by case basis on each kick where they are, and if you have to, there's really only Chicago would be the only place you'd have to play where you would really be kind of worried about weather, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, all the others are either indoor or nice weather.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it'll be interesting to see. I don't think you replace him. But I, it's a little shaky, but give him credit when he's kind of like Dak in the way of, as soon as you think that it's not gonna, like, okay, this isn't good, or then he kind of comes back. Watch this.
Watch this.
You got a few of those guys, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we're running out of time, but I wanted to make sure we talked about Shawn Lee. A few weeks ago, he went back to the game, played a few snaps, nothing major, nothing remarkable. Then coming back after that game, he showed up once again on the practice report with the hamstring. Now, this past weekend, the Cowboys did decide to sit him out. And this started raising a lot of questions about his future. Once again, what is going to happen with him? Have we seen the end of Shawn Lee? Or do you guys expect the Cowboys to throw him back in there at some point before the end of the season?
What Jason Garrett said was the injury to Anthony Brown kind of forced it. It did a trickle-down effect. Jordan Lewis had to play more, and maybe they put a little bit, a different special teams guy in there, Darius Jackson. And I believe that, and I still think there's a chance for Shawn Lee to play in a game where you could have that guy as a backup. But I think that goes to show that he won't be back next year. It's definitely for that price. Won't be back as a player next year for that price. And so I just feel like if you're a healthy scratch, that doesn't bode well for you next year when you make, when they can save, I think, $3 or $4 or $5 million or something. Doesn't mean that I think he's going to be on the team next year. I mean, that's as simple as that. Because you were trying to win the division, you need to go out and beat Tampa Bay. You need all hands on deck. And Shawn Lee was healthy enough to play and didn't. I think he's not going to play.
I think the interesting thing, if you go back to last year when they couldn't do anything on defense while he was out, if you had that team and you were in that situation, there is no doubt, unless the hamstring was off the bone, that he was not playing, right?
Pretty much.
But this was a situation where they had the flexibility, and that's the great thing about where they are right now with these two young linebackers. They have the flexibility to say, well, if Shawn isn't 100%, if he's feeling a little something on that hammy, let's just sit him and let's just have him for the playoffs. And if we can use him in the playoffs, I still believe if Shawn Lee plays in the playoffs, he'll have at least one play that's like, wow, that was a great play, because I think that's the kind of player Shawn Lee is. He's going to give them something. And so I think they feel like we'd rather get that something from him in a playoff type scenario, because we feel like our other two guys, they can handle the load. They can do this, and they can do it well even without Shawn. So there's no point in even putting him out there if he's sensing a little something's going on with that hamstring. Just let him sit. And hopefully by the time we get to the playoffs, he's 100%. He can go out there and he can give us that one or two plays that may make the difference in the game.
It's so sad to me. It's so sad. Like, you're literally losing all those older players that you've had here and just finishing up the whole reconstruction. It does happen quickly. Now, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. For Derek Eagleton, Nick Eman, Amber Garcia, this has been The Break on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.